Hello everyone, it's Becky here and welcome to my channel. So today we have lovely sunny weather, which always makes me very happy and very hyper, so be aware of that please. And today I'm going to be talking about books which are very close to my heart because they are all related to filmmaking. And these are non-fictional books, as you could guess, so I hope that it will be at least a little bit interesting for you, but it would be very difficult for me to just choose books which I read during those few years, because obviously I had to read so many books regarding filmmaking and film aesthetics and directing and creative writing, so I could just not randomly choose books from those. But I decided to take an approach of speaking about books I do have in my library currently. So that's what I'm gonna be talking about today. I hope you will enjoy the video, and let's just do it because I'm getting way too hyper. So the first book I would be talking about is this one called Film, very catching title and just very exact title, by Ronald Bergan. This book is very good because it gives you a good overview of the film in general. At the beginning there is mentioning of how the film actually was created from the very beginning, so you know, the famous scene of the train coming to the station and Lumiere brothers. Also it mentions some most favorite films of all time, literally from A to Z, and also some of the directors, which are alphabetically ordered from A to Z. And there at the end of the book, I'm not quite sure if you can find this in every edition, I suppose not, but there is the whole section about film in Czech Republic and in Slovakia. So that is something very interesting because our filmmaking history is very, very rich, and I just wish it would continue in its tradition even in these days, but oh well. But hopefully it will be as good as it used to be one day as well. And this book is really good because, as you can see, as I mentioned, you have there quite a good overview of every director and their films, and when was the film made, also what is the film about, who are the main characters. So this is really useful book if you are, you know, passionate about the film, but maybe you're not studying it, but you would like to have more sort of like overview of the whole film in general and have something like this in your library. It's quite a heavy book, but still worth it to get. So the second book is actually the very first book I purchased when I started to study film. It was actually the first thing I bought on Amazon as well, and it's called Teach Yourself Film Studies. And Teach Yourself is actually the series of the books. I don't think they do only filmmaking. I think that it's regarding different sorts of arts, but there's sometimes it's also like film studies and then creative writing and stuff like this. And it's a small book, but I would say quite rich with information, because every chapter gives you quite a good overview of film theory. Then you have some examples from the film, and at the end you also have a summary of, you know, the most important words and most important stuff which was shared with you in the chapter. And the book speaks over topics such as film aesthetics, and there you can find like continuity editing, mise-en-scène and sound, film structure, which is, you know, like narrative structure, then film authorships, and also non-fictional film, like because it also speaks a lot about genres. I feel like I'm talking too fast, okay. Sorry, but you can find a lot of film genres and some mentioning of directors. And then, for example, they also discuss here the work of Alfred Hitchcock, for example, which is very useful when they mention some sort of examples. So if you are interested in a film and you would like to get some deeper understanding or deeper overview about how the whole film works, this is a very interesting book, and it's really not that expensive because I do have more expensive books here, so definitely would recommend you this one. Then another book I have is the book called Economica Hollywoodu by Eduard J. Epstein. I believe that in English it would be like Hollywood Economics or something like that. And this was the book I purchased when I was in high school doing my big presentation, and I was, you know, I was at the business college, but whenever I had the chance to speak about film, I did. So I did the massive presentation. It was like the high school Sočka. I don't know how is it in English, but you have a chance here to do it once a year, and it's basically the massive project you work on for several even months, I think, and then you go to different schools and you present it to other people as well. And I decided to do this work on independent film and sort of combine it with economics, which is something I had to do obviously at business college. And this is very interesting book even for someone who is not that much interested in filmmaking, you know, like directing or this creative side of it, but just in general to see how the filmmaking in, well, now in America mostly, because it talks about really Hollywood blockbusters movie mostly, but how it all works, and also how these people are trying to get money out of you, even for example when you go to cinema, and how buying popcorn is all related to creating the film, and how people are actually thinking about these sort of things even ahead when they start to create the film, and also about how the insurance for some actors works and how much of stunt pieces they can can do in order to be, safe and protected by law, and just very, very interesting things. And even if you are not very much into, like economy or film, I think this is very interesting combination of these two topics, and highly recommend you to read because it really gives you quite a good overview of how these big production companies work and think, because at the end it really seems like it's mostly about money, unfortunately, but it's really interesting. Right, and the last book I have here is the Slovak one. It's by Eduard Grečner, who used to be a Slovak director, and it's called Film ako voľný verš. If I should translate this, it would be something like a film as a free verse, but I don't think this is the correct translation. But it's very interesting because Eduard Grečner directed, for example, Drak sa vracia for Slovak audience, which is one of the films which is basically mandatory to watch during your high school years, because it was also based on the book, which is really important for high school studies. But I must say it's one of the most depressing films I ever seen, and I don't really want to see it ever again. And it's very interesting because in this book Eduard Grečner is giving you his point of view and his opinion on the work of other directors, and you really have a mix of Slovak, Czechish and also foreign directors. So for example, let me find, there is Eisenstein, Alfred Hitchcock, Štefan Uher, Krzysztof Kieślowski or Kusturica. So it's very interesting, and I did not read that many books from, Slovak directors talking about filmmaking, which is a shame. I know I need to make it better, but also there are not that many books in Slovak. Usually if I go and I want to find some books regarding film which were made in either Slovak Republic or Czech Republic, usually those will be the books from Czechish authors and they will be written in Czech, which is a shame. But this is one of the Slovak books which I really enjoyed, so highly recommend this one if you have access to it, or if you're from Slovakia and if you're interested in film, definitely have a look at this one. Okay, and now I'm moving to a different category, which I decided to go, actually not really, it's still going to be kind of about the film in general, but this is mostly about French film noir. I must confess that I did not finish reading this book because film noir is really not a genre that I would be that interested myself, but it's still quite a lovely book, not very big, not very thick, and it really speaks about principles of film noir and about the history of the genre and some most favorite films which were created in this genre, and also some directors who were very famous regarding this topic and film noir. So this is also something that might be in interested of some of you, maybe, hopefully. And then this is a book talking about working in TV studio, and it's really big and very thick and quite heavy book called Cue and Cut by Roger Singleton Turner. And this book was recommended to me and also to my whole class by one of our lecturers, Paul, who was a very big sweetheart and we all really loved him. And this is a really excellent book, and I think it's really recommended by teachers to students when they are studying about film and especially about TV studios, because this offers you the whole overview of how film studio works. This is focused mostly on film studios in Britain, I would say, or across the UK, but it really gets everything from the basics about how the studio works, some sort of rules and also safety rules, to the whole floor plan of the studio, working in a gallery and with the TriCaster system, also using the lights in a studio, and as well as what are some sort of rules that needs to be obeyed, and also working with all those huge massive cameras. And it's quite good because you also have a lot of pictures and graphs there. For example, here, like what is the, can you see it? Like what is the best position if you are doing, for example, interview, so where you should where should be the position of the camera according to where the host and the interviews are sitting. So it's very, very interesting. Oh yeah, here you can see the whole graph, which you really need to study a little bit, but I did read the whole book. Yes, I did read the whole book, but it took me quite a long while. But I don't think, it's the book that you really need to read in one piece. You can really choose just different parts of the book depending on what you need to know or what is in your interest. And there are also quite a lot of pictures explaining what is for what and some sort of settings and for example, here the lights and the camera. And this is really, really good book, but it's not the cheapest one, but you can find it on Amazon in like paperback or then some versions which were used before, so there is always a way how to access them in a little bit cheaper way. Okay, so moving to another category, and this has to do with creative writing and screenwriting, and I must say that despite the fact I read so many books regarding this topic, I only found 2 in my bookshelf, which is quite surprising, but this one, which is almost like a Bible for screenwriters, very often it's referred to it like Bible for screenwriters, it's Jak napsat dobrý scénář by Sid Field. Again, I read this in Czechish because we do not have Slovak translation of this book, but I think in English it would be How to Write a Good Script. I'm not quite sure, but Sid Field is one of the most famous screenwriters and also people who do lectures and teaching other people how to write a good script. And this book is really amazing because I bought this book when I was in primary school already, because that was the time when I decided that I want to be a screenwriter, and because you unfortunately don't have some sort of writing classes or any sort of activities like this in primary school here, unless you would be in some private schools. But usually if you go to school here, you have, for example, Slovak language as one of the classes, and there you have some opportunities to do some sort of creative writing, but it's never, you know, like screenwriting or playwriting or anything like this. And I just decided that I just want to learn it, so I bought this book and I wrote my first scripts according this one, which is quite nice actually, because I was like maybe 11, 12 years old. But to the book concretely. So first here he speaks about how to write the script in general, some rules for the formatting, and also he gives you a lot of examples, for example like this, and he basically takes you through the whole journey from developing your idea until the point you need to sell your script. And during this time you also see a lot of examples on how to write a dialogue, how to structure the scene, how to write the headings, and it's just very good book. So if you are someone who always wanted to write a script and maybe you wanted to try to follow some rules but you didn't know how, this is very good book to start, because it's really easy to navigate. This book is actually talking about 3-act structure, because some writers use 5-act structure, but Sid Field is really talking about 3-act structure, which I personally work with quite often as well. So yeah, this could be interesting for you as well. I really enjoyed this book and I read it honestly. I read this book so many times, and I usually do not write stuff into the books because they are too pressure for that, but this book literally with highlighter, you know, so useful book. And then regarding this theme, I have one more book here, which I actually purchased last year when I was writing, 2 years ago, because my book I'm currently writing, I based it on the script I've written a year ago previously. So when I was writing that script, I purchased this book, but I must say I did not use it completely. But Screenwriting course is a book which you do not have that much of a theory rather than some sort of practical exercises for yourself, but still it's very good if you would like to try some script writing and you never had an experience, and maybe you have some ideas but you don't know how to transfer them on the paper and what are the steps you should take. This is really good because here you basically have explained everything from developing your idea and putting it on the paper, then trying to figure it out your characters and build the scenes, and all this sort of like theory you need to go ahead before starting to write. But then also it gives you a lot of exercises, literally, for example, okay, now write this and this scene and imagine this and this happens, but it always sort of like tailored to your own story. So by doing all these exercises you have a lot of practice, but you're also developing and creating your own story. So I would say this is quite interesting book, but I personally was never that much into having books that tells me what to do. I would rather see like how I can do something, and then I would have my own time and my own pace when I would be writing stuff like this. But I think I bought this on Amazon as well, and it wasn't very expensive. This was like £12 for a book like this, I think, so quite useful. So definitely on writing these 2 books. If you are interested, this is a lot of theory combined with examples, and according to which you can start to build your script yourself. And this book has a little bit less theory, even though there is still some, but you have a lot of exercises there according to which you can start build your script with this book. So yes. Okay, and now I'm moving to my most favorite books I have in my library, because I do love reading memoirs and biographies, you already know that, but when it comes to non-fictional books like this, I really do like to read books with interviews which are talking about different directors, for example, or screenwriters, when they are talking about their work and their approaches and their experiences. And I do have 3 books here, and I will start with this one, which is called Lekce filmu by Lauren Tirard. In English it could be translated like lessons on film or film lectures or something like that. I'm not quite sure. I believe the original book was in French, I think, so I'm not quite sure, but I can check that out for you. And this book is very interesting because Laurent Tirard is a journalist who over his career was doing interviews with the most favorite directors of all time, such as Polanski and Jim Jarmusch or Tim Burton, and this book basically contains the best from all those interviews. And I really enjoy reading this book because it really gives you quite a good overview or some sort of insight of how each of these directors is thinking, how are they approaching their work, how are they working with actors, and all these sort of things, which I'm always very, very crazy to read about because I love to do it, and definitely would recommend you to read this one. And there is also a filmography of every director, because basically each chapter is sort of like one director talking about his work, and then after that you also have the filmography, so the list of the films the director created, and then at the beginning when he's talking to some director you always have his picture there and a little bit of the background of the director, like who he is, and then it continues with their two talking about their career and their approaches and their film making process, and then at the end there is the mentioned list of all their films. So this is really great book if you are interested in filmmaking and if you like to also discuss or follow some other people's work as I do. Really great book and overview to like world-class directors, so really great. And then I have a similar books, one about Woody Allen, because Woody Allen is a filmmaker who I really do like. I know the stuff people are talking about him, but I don't want to go into this very much because I'm hoping that it's not true and that he is just amazing director whose work I really appreciate. And this is very interesting book in which Eric Lux is talking with Woody Allen about his whole career. Also, it's filled with a lot of pictures. Let me find some. For example, like this from his movies. And again, Woody Allen here talks about how he started after the war and why he started to create films. He mentions some of his most favorite films, his experiences with working with actors, and how he comes up with film ideas, and then how and why is he doing one film a year. And it's very, very interesting. And if you like the director, I read a couple more books about Woody Allen. I also read couple books which he written himself with short stories, which I did not bring here. That's a shame, but never mind. I can mention them in some other videos. And I really do enjoy his work. And if you do like him as well, I highly recommend you to try out this book because it's really interesting insight into his career and into his approach for work. Okay, and now the last book, cannot believe I'm already at the end, is the book about Miloš Forman, which was written with Bohdan Slama. Again, I have this book in Czech language, but I'm sure that you can find books about Miloš Forman as well in English, because maybe some of you have not heard about Miloš Forman, but I think that he is very well known director. He was born in Czech Republic originally, but he is really, really great and an example of someone who I always admired, especially when I was in primary school and high school and I was dreaming about having a career in filmmaking one day in the whole world, not only in Slovakia, because he is the one who managed to get Oscar for his film and who was well known in the whole world and also working with world-class actors. One of my most favorite films from here is The Fly Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I hope that's how you pronounce the film. And also he made the film Amadeus, and I also really do like Volmond with Colin Firth and Annette Bening. So really amazing films, and again very similar concept of the book as the previous books. So he is reminiscing about his career, about his life, how it was working in America comparing to Czech Republic, how it was to go and take his first Oscar, because you know, there were different things going on in Czechoslovakia at that time, so it wasn't that easy. About how he started to work in this industry in general, how he comes up with ideas for this film and some plans he had for future, but unfortunately he is not with us anymore. But I really do admire his work and I really do like him as a person from the documentaries I've seen. So this is really great book. If you know Miloš Forman or if you want to know his work a little bit better, definitely recommend you to read this book. And that's it. Alright, my friends, so thank you very much for staying with me until now, and I apologize for talking so fast, but whenever I talk about films or books I just get a little bit hyper. And also what I was doing before I started to film this video was that I was currently I'm now applying for different jobs across the UK and everywhere else, and I managed to get to the second round for one film company, and they wanted me to submit some video interviews for them. So I've been already filming for almost 2 hours prior this video, and that's also why I'm sort of more chatty and maybe more comfortable in front of the camera, because I've been doing this for past 2 hours already and I cannot wait to be done with it. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this video and that there is something which is interesting for you, even though these books are non-fictional and they are quite narrowed in the topic regarding filmmaking, but I hope that there is something that you might be interested in. And also, if there would be some books which you are particularly interested in, for example regarding creative writing, or I don't know, film aesthetics or something like that, you can let me know in the comments. I would be really happy to make the research and speak about those books, because I'm sure I read some books regarding those topics. So yes, let me know in the comments if there is any books from these I mentioned which you are interested in to read. Also, if you have maybe some other books you would like me to talk about in the future, and I will see you with another video very soon. Thank you, bye, take care.